Okay. So, welcome to the Voices of Wellness Season 1, and we are on episode 5. I have been truly blessed with the privilege of meeting with such phenomenal people across the continent of Africa who are just pouring their hearts out into the different wellness facets that they're in right now. And it's been absolutely phenomenal. It's been a beautiful journey, and I thank all of them. And today I have Araba Ofori. And, you know, before I begin and introduce her, there's just something that I'd love to share that I came across on her website. And when you do get the chance, I'll have all her information and links to all her social media and her website at the bottom of the video, and you can go see it for yourself. But what really took me back was, if we stand tall, it is because we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. If Africa is the birthplace of humanity, it is also the birthplace of wellness. Come home to wellness. Whoosh. I think it's a wrap, Arab. I think our work is done. This interview's done as it is.
Thank you.
It's beautiful, beautiful. Um,
Thank you.
Araba is a holistic healer, and she's a writer based in Accra, Ghana. She is the founder of ASHE Wellness, which is an organization dedicated to promoting African-centered wellness, and Self-Care Sunday, which is a wellness festival held in Accra. She also runs a sister circle, which is a healing circle for Black women, and also by Black Ghana, which is a company that supports and showcases the best Black-owned businesses in Ghana. So, Araba, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be part of this series that you're creating, and I'm just so thankful to be here to speak to you about African wellness today.
Thank you for your time, dear. Now, we're going to go right in, and I wanted to know how you started. I'm not going to read your entire biography because part of it I wanted to come from you. It's best when it comes from you. So you can tell us your story on how you started and, what African wellness is.
Yeah, so it's a big question, isn't it? But I think I won't go into too much detail, but I suppose it all started with me having my own mental health challenges, and my healing journey from that became so much more than just a mental health journey. It was a mental health journey, a spirituality journey, and then it also became a journey back to my heritage and to reconnect with my culture. So all of those things kind of interspersed and catalyzed each other to essentially bring me home to wellness and physically bring me home to Ghana. Um, it's been quite the journey. And within that journey, my understanding of what African wellness is has also changed. So when I first got here, I had this real urge to be a real African because I didn't feel African enough, and I didn't feel like my wellness was African enough. So I was actually going on this path of ending up being quite dogmatic, which isn't in itself it's not the African way. So kind of through going through that journey and then realizing that that wasn't the way, and then coming back to understand, okay, so what does it really mean to be African? I realized that the individual acts that we do aren't necessarily the most important thing. What's important is the belief system that we're working from. So most Indigenous African worldviews and belief systems center on this idea that you can't practice spirituality as a separate thing. Art is not a separate thing. Family is not a separate thing. It's all interspersed together. It's all how we live. So to be African is to practice that sense of oneness. It's to recognize that there might be different ways of things manifesting, but it's your belief system and what drives you that makes you African or not. So I kind of came around full circle. And, it's also a big concept to understand, this concept of everything being interconnected. So to help myself understand it, I broke it down into the 4 pillars of African wellness, which I've recognized as music, movement, Mother Earth, and magic. So let's take Mother Earth as an example. When I was kind of in my weird dogmatic phase, I would have thought that, herbal healing is very African, but I would have felt that I had to only use African herbs in herbal healing. Whereas now what I recognize is that every African belief system has at its center that we are one with Mother Earth. So however you want to manifest that, whether it's through using herbs in healing, whether it's through walking in nature, whatever country you're in, you can still take that African tenet and apply it to your well-being. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. You've touched up on a few things, Araba, that I'd like to go a little bit deeper in. And I love how you've created the 4 pillars. And when it comes to music, for example, so you said music, movement, Mother Nature, and magic.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. And these tie into the experiences you offer, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So every experience has an aspect from each of those 4 pillars.
Okay. Could you give us one example? I'm sure there's a wide variety under each pillar as it is, but just one example of an activity or a practice that falls under each pillar?
Yes, sure. First, I just want to check, there's like a sound coming from outside. Is
Oh,
it
sure.
very loud for you or is it okay?
I can hear it. It's not so loud. I think it's
Okay, I think I'm just going to try
sure.
closing the window and see if
Okay,
that,
perfect.
okay,
That's fine.
give me a second.
Okay. In the meantime, while she does that, I find this so fascinating. Oneness. It's not just an African belief system, but I think, and not just think, but I believe that the oneness, it embodies all of us, regardless of what continent you hail from. So that's beautiful, beautiful. Welcome back. I was just telling
Thank you.
the listeners that when you spoke about oneness as a practice or belief within the African community, it centers to, regardless of where you come from, ideally, and you did illuminate that as well. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is that I feel that most, I can't say all because I don't know them all, but I feel that most indigenous cultures around the world have very, very similar messages and underlying beliefs. So when we look at the African worldview and some of those, some of even the more specific practices like ancestral veneration, we can see that when we look at other indigenous practices, they have a very similar approach. So I think it's really interesting that we, we like to have all of this separation in the world, but actually when we look behind the surface, we see that there's a common thread between many of our belief systems and our spirituality practices and our wellness practices.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so your 4 pillars and the
Yes, yes. Okay, so under each pillar, I'd like to give something that is kind of quote unquote typically African, and then also something that someone might not necessarily think of as African, but it's still something that they can practice under that pillar. So with the first pillar of, let's start with movement. So dance, traditional dance has been a part of our culture for so, so long. And it is not just dance, it has been used as a form of communication. It's been used as a way to get into trance, to allow spirits to communicate through you, through the dance. So, this feeling of connecting, this feeling of transcendence that many of us get when we dance is actually because that's what dance has been used for. I'm sure many people have heard of ecstatic dance, and that's a similar thing where you're using the movement of your body to get into a trance state. So, yes, traditional dance is an example for movement. And then something that isn't seen as African is yoga. So I'm a trained yoga teacher. That was one of the things that really saved me when I was on my healing journey. And when I was first going through this process of figuring out what it means to practice wellness in an African way, I had this kind of question of myself, does that mean I can't practice yoga anymore because yoga's not African? Um, since then, the answer has become no, that doesn't mean that. You can practice whatever movement you want. But yes, so yoga is not an African practice, but in moving your body in a way that's spiritual, that is at its basis is also part of African wellness. So that's for movement. And then for music, what goes hand in hand with traditional dancing is the drumming. The drum is, again, it's so much more than just an instrument. It has been used for communication. Again, even across villages, the talking drum was used for communication. It is used in ceremonies. It's used to help get the dancers into a trance. So drumming in itself is very spiritual. And again, it's a practice that you see in other belief systems as well. So, shamanic drumming has become very popular. You see drums in Asian cultures, in indigenous American cultures. It's something that it's spiritual. That's the only way I can describe it. It's far more than music, it's spiritual. And then under music, for something that isn't necessarily African, sound healing. And I know I've seen a picture of you doing some sound healing, so I know it's something that you practice. And again, it's, the use of singing bowls isn't necessarily African, but the idea of using sound to change your vibration is something that has been practiced by our people for a very long time. So you taking that thing that our ancestors have been doing and now doing that same work through these singing bowls, it's still you working in the way that your ancestors worked. You're just using slightly different tools. So I honestly think sound healing is one of the most beautiful healing modalities. It's just incredible. And that's another thing that people might look at and say, oh, well, it's not African, it's Asian, or, from a different culture. But it's not about the specific tool you're using. The transformation that you're creating with it is the same thing that your ancestors were doing. So in my view, that's also part of African wellness.
It's beautiful. I love how you put it that way. It's
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you. Okay, so two more pillars.
Sorry,
So I'll do mother.
sorry,
Yes.
dear. I wanted to go back to the sound. I know
Sure.
you had put on your Instagram profile. I know before COVID came about, you were hosting quite a few African wellness experiences and retreats, and I came across a spoken word artist who had it looks like a harp, but an African harp. I call it an
Yes.
African harp for those who don't really know it, and it's called a kora. And there was a
Yes.
gentleman who had a flute called the anteban flute that you
Yes.
you had. So besides the beautiful explanation that you had about the universality of sound and intention, isn't it? It's
Mm,
the intention. You
it
still
is.
have the connection with the actual African
Mm.
instruments as well. That's beautiful.
Exactly, yes. So I have been doing African sound healing at my events, which is it's exactly as it sounds. So it's using indigenous instruments and doing a guided meditation with them. So yes, we've had the kora, we've had the flute, we've had the drums, and we had another instrument. I can't remember the name. It begins with S. What's it called? It's gone from my mind. But yeah, so I've just been experimenting with different indigenous instruments to see what kinds of experience they create, because when we think about sound healing, we're very used to things like, even the sound of the kora is still quite similar to what we're used to. But some other instruments, the xylophone, yes, we had the xylophone as well, which is a major instrument in African tradition. Some of those sounds are sounds that we're not used to hearing in a meditative state. So it's been really interesting to create sound healings with those slightly different sounds and say, okay, this sound is actually quite energizing. So I'm going to change the meditation so that we're doing an energizing meditation rather than one where people are trying to fall asleep because the sound doesn't match with that. So that's been a really interesting experience as well.
Wow. Wow. I'd love to see. I look forward to seeing. I hope to come to Ghana one day. It's on my list
Yes,
and come and
we would love to have
experience that.
you.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay.
Lovely.
So the next pillar is
Mother Earth.
Mother Earth. Okay.
Yes. So Mother Earth, Mother Nature, Asasiya, as she's known in many parts of Ghana, also known as Asase Ifwa, um, our bountiful, generous mother who gives us all we need to sustain life on Earth. And so, as I mentioned earlier, a typical way of connecting with Asasiya is through herbal healing. And I really believe that this is it's something that so many of us take for granted that we could actually very easily incorporate into our lives a lot more. So something as simple as drinking herbal tea. Many of us drink herbal tea just because we feel like drinking tea, but actually we're underestimating the fact that that tea is medicine. So if we're just a little bit more intentional about what we're drinking, we can change that whole experience. So instead of just drinking, I don't know, a black tea or a green tea just because that's what I have in my cupboard and I feel like it, I can now get a collection of herbs, maybe even just 3 or 4 herbs to start with. And then I can actually choose what I'm drinking based on how I'm feeling or how I want to feel. So maybe in the morning, I will decide to have ginger tea because I know that it's going to help to energize me. And then if I'm feeling anxious, I'll have peppermint tea because I know that it helps to relax me. Or if I'm having digestive troubles, then maybe I'll make a pineapple and ginger tea. So it's doing something that we're already doing, but just bringing a different level of intentionality to it and recognizing that something as simple as tea actually is medicine. So that's one thing for Mother Nature. And then another thing is, especially in the times that we're in now, I think we cannot underestimate how easily we can connect with Mother Nature in some of the most simple ways. So, it's always easy to think, okay, I want to connect with nature, so I'm going to go to the beach, or I'm going to go to a forest, or I need to go and do this hike. But actually, especially if you're stuck at home, you can connect with nature by having more plants in your house and then spending time with your plants, watering your plants, speaking to your plants. You can even pour libations at your plants, pouring libations, just in case any of the listeners don't know, pouring libations is It's something that has been done in many cultures, but it's definitely a key hallmark in African cultures where you are pouring usually water, sometimes alcohol, onto the ground and saying either an incantation or just giving thanks and speaking to your ancestors as you do that. And traditionally it's done outside, but you can do it at your plants as well, because these plants are an extension of Mother Earth outside. So speaking with your plants, connecting with your plants, pouring libations to your plants. If you can't get to somewhere where you're by the water, drawing a bath for yourself. If you don't have a bathtub, getting a bucket and then creating a spiritual bath, whereby you have your water and then you add herbs to it, or you add salt to it, or even essential oils, whatever you need to do to elevate that bath into a spiritual bath. Having candles around so you can connect with fire. Just these really simple things that we can do indoors, especially if we're not able to get to the points in nature that we'd like to be in. So that's another way to connect with Mother Earth.
Oh, thank you for that tip with the flowers, the indoor plants. I think that's
Yeah.
with so many people who may live in apartments or in big cities, that's a beautiful way for them to still have that level of communion. So thank you for
Yes.
sharing it.
No problem. Yes. And then the final pillar is probably the one that's, I think, somewhat scary to many people who have been conditioned to think that anything anything kind of to do with African spirituality is demonic or bad or dark. So the final pillar is magic, and magic is a word that means many different things to different people. For me, magic simply means transformation. And it doesn't have to be something that's, like a magic trick that changes before your eyes. It can be as simple as, creating a new habit that helps you to become healthier. That's a form of transformation, it's a form of magic. Um, so the African example I will give for magic is the Adinkra. So Adinkra is an ancient language of West Africa, of the Akan people. It's often referred to as symbols, but there's so much more than symbols. It's a language, but it's an iconographic language rather than, I can't remember the exact phrase, but like a written language. Um, and the language is used today on so many things, clothing, pieces of art. But I think we often overlook the healing qualities of the Adinkra, because each icon is filled with the knowledge and lessons and guidance of our ancestors. And we can work with them so much more than just looking at them on a piece of cloth or on our wall, which is why I created an Adinkra Oracle deck, just to help people learn the meanings behind them and also use them for healing and ancestral guidance. And a form of magic which isn't seen as inherently African, but I believe is still, a form of magic, would be the idea of, there's so many different ways to say it, but law of attraction, manifestation, intention setting, whatever you want to call it, that's also another form of magic. So if even just if you do goal setting once a year and you write out what you want to achieve and you write the plan of how you're going to do it, that is catalyzing change. That's setting an intention for transformation. So to me, that's also a form of magic. So it doesn't have to be this, scary thing with big ceremonies and burning sage and whatever else. It can be literally as simple as writing down your goals.
Thank you for illuminating that, Araba. And I think that was one of the things that I really wanted to talk to you about, was the the misconception of, spirituality, being,
Mm,
boxed as, black magic for, is called what it is at the end of the day.
yeah.
But regardless of what practice, you could be halfway across the world and practicing something else, whether it be Eastern or Western. It could still be negative, because it
Mm,
just depends on, I think, your intention, your earnestness, and your sincerity toward the practice. So I think,
yeah.
as Africans, and as our wellness colleagues who do not know, who may only have the idea of it being one way, and
Mm,
based on lack of information, and lack of right information and teaching on African spirituality, what it is, the beauty that is very prevalent in the practice, depending on what form of practice you put in, is
mhm,
available. It is there, and it's
mhm.
beautiful. So thank you for highlighting that.
Thank you. And you're absolutely right. Any spiritual practice can be used for evil. We've seen how Christianity has been used for evil. So it's really not about the belief system or the practice, it's about the intention of the person using it. And I truly believe that each of us is supposed to have a personal connection with the divine. And therefore, each of us is free to explore different spiritual practices, explore different religions, and find what works for us. And to do that, we have to remove stigma, because otherwise we're limiting ourselves from potentially finding a way of connecting the divine that really works for us.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Oh, I could go on and on. I think we need to do this again. But
Yes,
I'd
I
love
would
to do
love
it in
to.
person with you at one of your retreats. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, you have a shop where you create the Adinkra cards, correct? You design them,
Yes, I
correct?
have them here actually.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
um, I'm not an artist, so I didn't do the designs. I worked with a wonderful artist called Naki, a very patient artist, and I had the vision for the cards. I knew what the different designs needed to be or what they needed to elicit. So it took us a few months, but yes, I basically briefed her and we collaborated on coming up with the designs. And I'm just so pleased with how they came out. So I think I'll just actually should I pick a card for us for our audience today?
Beautiful. Please do. Oh, I love this.
Okay, okay. So I'll do that, and then I'll just give a quick summary of what the card means, and then I will just kind of show all of the cards so people can see what they look like. Okay, so I'm just asking my ancestors, my spirit guides, and my highest self for one card that will give us the message that we need to receive today. Ooh. Okay, so this is the card.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes, so this Adinkra symbol is probably one of the most well known actually. So this is the symbol here, Jafe,
Okay.
and it literally means comb. So I'm sure you've even seen them, these very old wooden combs that our ancestors used to use for their hair, which are really pieces of art. I mean, I actually have one. I can go grab it in a minute to show you. But the meaning of this is it's about beauty, it's about femininity, and about being proud of those aspects of yourself. And it's not just for women, you know, these are feminine energy qualities that all of us have within us, no matter what our gender is. So this card is really asking you to be proud of your divine feminine, to connect with your divine feminine. And you can do this through, self-care, nurturing yourself, but also through connecting with creativity, whether that's through dance, drawing, writing, whatever creative expression works for you. So yeah, so that's the card for us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I think everyone who is listening, I know without a doubt resonated because it really permeated the cells of my
Yeah,
body temple. So thank you. Thank you for that. The colors are beautiful. I see why it took you a few months to, because they're quite
yes,
they're vibrant. It's beautiful. Now, if we wanted
thank
to
you.
purchase these cards, where could we get? I think you have a
Yeah,
link on your website. Is there anywhere else, or only can we find them on your website?
so you can order them directly through Instagram at ASHE Wellness. I'm working on getting some stockists in the UK and the US. At the moment, I do ship internationally, so you can get them wherever in the world you are. But it would be great to have some local stockists as well, so people can go to the shops and see what they look like. So if you follow us on Instagram, then you'll be up to date with any new changes that come about.
Oh, beautiful. Well, I have Araba's Instagram handle at the bottom of this video. Please do go and have a look, and she'll have all the information there. Now, Araba, if one was to get the cards, do they need to be trained specifically on how to use the cards in case there's anybody else? Like I've never used the cards, but I'd love to get myself
Yeah.
and gift my friends. But for us who are not the experts, do we need to train, or is it just, intuition and intention?
Yeah. So the cards come with a guidebook. Um, so there's like a little introduction that talks to you about Adinkra and about how you might be able to use the cards. And then for every card, there's a page that tells you about the meaning and about like one action that can help you to integrate the learning from the card. So the guidebook is there to help you. I believe that oracle cards are about your intuition. So, yes, there are specific spreads that you can learn, which tells you how many cards to pull, what each card means. Um, and they can be helpful, they can be interesting, they can be exciting to try. But I truly believe that you should always start with your intuition. So just start by connecting with the cards. I said I was going to show you what they look like. So let me do that now. So it's an array of colors.
Beautiful,
So these are
beautiful.
some of the cards. So the first thing is to really just connect with the cards. You know, if you want to, you can look through all of them first. Otherwise, just kind of, shuffling through them, putting your energy all over them. And then as you shuffle, just really trying to connect and not overthink it. And you'll just know how many cards to pull and you'll know what each card is for. So sometimes I think I'm going to pull one card and then I hear something telling me to pull another card. And I know that one of them is either about the past, maybe, and then the other one is about the future or something like that. Um, so I really would recommend that people start with their intuition and trust themselves. I don't believe it's possible to use the cards in the wrong way, because I don't believe it's possible to use your intuition in the wrong way other than ignoring it, which many of us do. Um, so yeah, start with your intuition. The guidebook is there to help you. And then if you do feel like you either want to go a little bit more advanced, or you're overthinking it and you feel that that's getting in the way of you receiving the messages, then you can look online, you can look on YouTube, even on Instagram. There's lots of different ideas for spreads. how many cards you can pick and what those cards mean. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Araba. That was
Um,
beautiful. Thank you for the reading, and the cards are absolutely beautiful. I love the colors. They're just so
Thank
vibrant
you.
and speak volumes with the culture, because the Akan, but many cultures in Africa are and were very vibrant. So that is
Yeah.
it's a beautiful
Yeah.
reflection.
Thank you.
I love when you said intuition, and we've mentioned it quite a few times throughout. And nowadays, this a lot of the spiritual practices, some call it woo-woo beliefs, or and it's not. So if you're listening to it, I mean, we're not convincing anyone, but just your intuition is a gift which our ancestors blessed us with. The divine has blessed us with. It's their
Absolutely.
DNA is running through our veins,
Yeah.
in every cell of our body. And regardless of what form you use, be it the cards, it's a spiritual practice of libation, whatever form of
Mm.
ritual, which in essence, when we boil it down, is just it's communion, when we have
Mm.
different ways, and all of them are just so beautiful. Even if you might practice a meditation from Tibet, and
Yes.
belly fire breathing, and you're in Africa,
Yeah.
it's okay, we're one. So that's it's beautiful. So the intention, so thank you for bringing that up. And I really cherish and really honor the light within you. Namaste. As our ancestors in the East say. And I just thank you for all your words of wisdom. They're all pearls. So listeners definitely took some gems from you, tips of sacred practice that you know you can do in small ways and lead into something you know a much more deeper that speaks to you. So thank you for that. um, if you are listening and you want to organize a wellness retreat in Africa, I know though Araba is based in Ghana, she is open to moving around within the continent, or I don't know, international.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
she's there. She's this beautiful spiritual being with so much knowledge and love, genuine intentions to connect African wellness, connect the world, and to educate as well. So do connect with her if that's something that you want to incorporate in any of your retreats, collaborations, or just go. And once we're all good to go in a couple of months, I think when she has the next retreat, I know I'm gonna do my best to definitely go and attend it, because I've seen the
Thank
vibrant
you.
pictures from the past ones that you've had. So that is beautiful. And when you have time, I listened to her ancestral meditation last night. Beautiful. So please, it's on Instagram. Listen to it. It's a different form, but it's one intention. It's love, connection, communion with that which is within us, around us, moves through us, as us. So I thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Again, her Instagram handle is at the bottom of the video, as well as her contact details should you wish to reach out to her, learn from her, connect, collaborate, and just love her. How can you not? Yeah. Oh,
Yes, just
beautiful.
say hi. I love making new friends.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for your time, beloved, and I know we'll see each other soon. And may your path be blessed with an ease and grace as you continue to move forward.
Thank you so much for having me. And I want to thank you to everyone who's listening as well. And just wishing you all the blessings, love, and insight. And like you said, I'm sure we'll connect again.
Thank you.
Thank you.